I've been reminded on my YouTube channel that I probably shouldn't have green stars, and these are getting pretty close to being green. And I also was thinking that well, if I had green stars I would then have a green horizon line, and after the last video where they've got the sinusoidal horizon line, that made me think I could maybe use the horizon to create a special effect. So that's what we'll look at in this. So I'm just going to get rid of everything in this scene for the time being, and just delete the content that I've added. I think there's a large star field here. There we go, get rid of that. And then I'm going to drop the camera down so we're pointing at the horizon, facing north, like so. You can see that this is a sort of turquoise colour. Let's shift that spectrum a bit with the atmosphere, modify this so we've got a bit more green in it. Let's make it a bit more of a green horizon, which would give us green stars. It also gives us this very bright line, and I thought that could be useful. So what I'm going to do is turn the stars off temporarily, right, and then modify the document setup so it's 2 to 0. What can we go down to on here? 0. Thank you. So what's that given us? A long thin strip with a bright line down the middle. Okay, so I'm going to save that, export image as background 6, then that can be its own mask. So I can use this, if I just now do revert to saved, to create a special effect. So what I'll do is go to the create shelf, use my little fella here, this gold guy, find this background, and then copy and paste it in so it becomes its own mask. Then where's that been put? It's been put somewhere down out of sight, so we'll just lift it up into view for the time being and modify the material. So we want it, it's sorted out its own masking of transparency, but we want it to be ambient rather than diffuse. So hopefully it's going to fully transparent at the top and the bottom, and it's lit up in the middle, and that should give us this, what I hope looks like a laser effect. So maybe you can guess where I'm going with this. If you'd seen the first video and the first scene, we've got a bit of content here that we might steal from this scene and use. Otherwise, so here we go. Right, this thing, what we can do is we can capture this as a backdrop so it's not distorted. So we just get rid of everything else and zoom in on this object, and because it's got no atmosphere I can use object masking. So if I take this, just render it, renders fairly quickly, file and export image, and call this background 7. Okay, and then I can do the masking. So select the object and do an object mask, and then render that. No atmosphere, so it can have a hard edged mask. File, export image, and call this one, we've got this in here, background 7 underscore mask. Right, go back to this scene now. So we can bring in, well, let's see, we'll get rid of this asteroid and take this planet assembly, move it over here, bring in another of our little golden fellas things here. So that's that, and also load in its mask at the same time. Okay, check out of that. Right, save our current camera position, and then I'm going to drop the camera down to the 0 so we can properly connect with this image, and it'll be in a non-distorted form. So here we go, there's the 2D image just there. We might have to adjust the lighting to match it, so I'll just need to get hold of that 2D image, right, and then adjust its attributes so it's in front of the camera, like so. Okay, and then if I link that to parent it to the perspective camera, and then pop it back in position, the camera, by restoring it. Right, what we got here now, I can't actually see that because it's probably not set the material up right for us. So it's got it in ambient, but we haven't got any output in ambient. We have got the transparency set, that's good, and it is blend transparency, so it's responding to its thing, and it's given us a parametric mapping for this 2D face, which is fine. So hopefully now we can see that thing. Get away with it being a bit larger. If we want it to remain undistorted, move it to one side carefully, and that gives us that. Right, now we get hold of this 2D face and reposition. And the telephone's ringing. Hang on. Right, let's see if I can pick up the thread of where I was. Okay, so we've got this effect. We've got this 2D object that's been masked, so it doesn't matter. It won't get distorted as you put it towards the edge. That was the key behind that. So I could widen the field of view. Hopefully I don't get the horizon in, which I have. Whoops. So I'll tilt the camera back a bit. You see that's remained in track with the camera because of the linking, so that's handy. So I'll take this and move it down here, enlarge it a bit. And what I'm going to try and do is position it so that that effect looks like it's coming out of that the dish area. So let's just reposition this 2D face. Let's try object space. Okay, rotate around a bit. So I don't want it to be flat on because I'm trying to intersect two flat things. They want to be at an angle from one another, otherwise it's going to be nearly impossible. So I don't know how I can line this up very easily. Let's see. Move it forward again. Oops, too far. But not too badly too far. Right, let's rotate this round on that axis there. Let's see. Nearly there. Let's try nudging it back. Oh, that's very close. Okay, so as you can see, you could create several of these special effects. You could create a dotted one to come around from the edges, for example, and you could create something to go over the point there. Sure, we might have something in the library. Let's have a fish around in the library, see what we've got. Something green to go in there. That's almost green. That's pretty green. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, let's go for that. Let's use this cyan assembly. Right, oops, there we go. Get hold of that. It can be difficult to get hold of things in these views, particularly when you're doing everything at weird angles to avoid looking at the horizon. That's probably one of the worst things you have to overcome. So let's rotate this round, try and get it fairly flat on to the camera, which we could do by following the tricks I've outlined for the 2D faces, but you know, roughly should be close enough if I can just get it in position where I want it. See, that's better. What I'm going to do is try and line it up with that there, but not be as big as that. So up a bit, if I can figure out the right direction to use. Now everything's out of kilter because of rotating the camera. There we go. And shrink it down. So we're essentially obscuring the end point there and giving it a bit of glow so it looks like something exciting is happening. Let's see if I can adjust it all together. Don't seem to be able to get hold of it without getting hold of a bit of it at a time. So I have to do it with the controls, which is fiddly. There we go. Let's enlarge it ever so slightly. So that's giving me a bit of a glow effect in there, and it looks like something's, you know, beginning at that point. I think I'll shrink it back down again and move it. These adjustments are fiddly. Right, so we could take these, and this is going to be difficult, but I'll give it a go, and shrink them down. If I made them dotty it would probably look better, but I can shrink them right down and tilt it and gradually assemble my effect. From components. Let's see, get hold of that. There is a mode, and I don't use it very often, but in here where you can mix the wireframe and the default view to position things. It sometimes helps. So that's what we've got here. If we make this additive, probably should have done that from the outset. It won't interfere with the other one, which we don't need to have additive. It's good that it sort of fades the background out. So I've got that there. Then copy and paste that, and I'll twirl it round. Oh, this is fiddly. Right, just to give you the idea of how to go about it. I mean, if you wanted to be really clever, I suppose you could make a cone with these effects on, do it in the materials, but you know, that by the time you've done that and worked out all the material settings, you might as well have done it this way. You know, it becomes as short as it is long, really. Sometimes it's just easier to do the laborious fiddly method than it is to do the clever method, which I regard doing the material approach is probably the cleverer method than just carefully aligning things in the wireframe view like this. But there you go. There's another one at an angle I'm going to put in there. It's just to make it look a bit more 3D. 3D-y. There we go. And I'll pop one in at the back edge as well. Or it's just got to look like it's going in at the back edge. So long as none of these things accidentally overlap one another, you can get away with quite a lot. So let's do that. Right, okay, well you can see, you know, how you would go about doing that. I don't want to spend the rest of the day doing that. If you don't want to spend the rest of the day watching me do it on the video. So here's a star field that's no longer in alignment, so I'm going to put that flat onto the camera as much as possible. And then enlarge it. It's one of the higher resolution ones, so it shouldn't be a problem. Let's see if we can get it tilted round appropriately. Let's see, we're going to go for, try and find a rotation that will rotate. Is it the Z-axis there? That's it, Z-axis. Just it's got its origin at the top for some reason. Again, probably because it's come out of the library. You can always save these materials and then reapply them to another surface. So that's sorted the star field out. Now we need to move this planet assembly. So let's enlarge that. And we're going to try and put it in front of this effect. So if I can get a hold of this, move it along. That's probably going to be very large in this scene, but there we go. Right, and that's put the planet in front of the effect. Now the planet is sort of going into the side of the planet there. Oh, that's a good thing. And the light's behind this, which is a little bit inconvenient. I'm going to lose the planet. I've changed my mind about that. We'll just have it firing it emptily into space, like so. Okay, right. Oh, I think I've laboured on that long enough, and well, you either like the results or not. At least it demonstrates a few principles there in how you can use things to create effects. Okay then, that's the end of this video. I'll leave it at that, and we'll move on to something else. Cheers now.